So this week I'm staying with the tutorials on Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw. But instead of going over some tips for editing your photos, this is going to be a way to add a huge amount of efficiency to editing large batches of photos. So I'm sure you've done photo shoots where, it requires you to shoot hundreds of photos, and you also have a fast turnaround time on those images to send to your client. So how do you do this? Is this something that you have to go image by image and spend hours editing every single aspect of the photos? Or is there a different way you can do this to where you can apply one, sort of like filter to every single photo? The tool that I'm going to be going over is called the Sync tool, and it's available in both Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw, and it's a way that you can save a huge amount of time on editing anywhere from 5 photos to 200 or 300 photos, however many photos you need. And it's really going to be a huge part of your workflow to help you save time on some of these large projects that you might have. So I'm going to open up Adobe Photoshop and Adobe Camera Raw just to kind of show you a project that I had to work on recently that really benefited from using this tool. Okay, so here is a project that I had to work on last week, and as you can see, it's real estate photos. It's the interior and some exterior shots of the house that I was shooting. Now, the thing with real estate photos is you can't really tell the realtor or whoever you're working with that you'll be done with the photos in a week or whatever. Those photos are basically the only thing that's showing the clients or the potential home buyers what the interior of the house looks like. So they can't really list the house or even expect a sale of the house until these photos are done. So this is a really good example of a time that bulk editing photos is going to be very beneficial for you and your client, because I had over I think over 100 images here, and I needed this out by the middle of the next day. So this isn't something I could go picture by picture and finely tune each photo. So I'm gonna kind of get into a little bit of the editing here and kind of give you an idea of the thought process that's needed for kind of doing the bulk editing. So I think this is a good image to start on. It's the first image, and what you're going to be wanting to do, the first thing you're going to be wanting to do when you're editing photos in bulk is thinking about what is going to be applied to all of the images, or at least a huge chunk of them. Now, one thing I do know about this image and all of the other images in this set is that the lens I was using had barrel distortion, and you can actually see it on all of the straight lines in all of these images. You have like just a severe barrel distortion on everything. And so that's one thing I do know needs to be edited. So that's, a very simple fix. I'm just going to go in here, enable profile corrections, and I already had it kind of queued up. So you can see the lines here are all corrected. And then one more edit that I know will be applied to every single photo is I'm going to bring the shadows up, bring the highlights down, and then maybe add just like a tad bit of vibrance and a tad bit of saturation just to kind of make the image look a little bit more lively. So that is an edit that I know every single image needs. Number one, because there is barrel distortion on every single photo, because I used the same lens on every single photo, and I also want to brighten up the image to kind of add a little bit more, natural looking lighting on every single photo. So that is another thing I know I need. So what's the next step? The next step I'm going to do, and this is going to apply for everybody that's doing this in Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Camera Raw, which is this program, and you're just going to select the image that you did the edit to. And what I'm going to do for this one specifically is I'm going to choose every single image. So I'm going to scroll down to the very last image, hold down Shift, and click. And when I do that, you can see it's selected every single image in the bunch. not leaving out a single one. So what I can do here, and Adobe Lightroom has an actual button for this, and you'll just see it's a button kind of under the color tab on the right that says sync. But on this one, Adobe Camera Raw, you just right click and you see sync settings. So I'm going to click on that, and what you'll see is every single aspect that you could edit for the images is shown here. So it's everything from, you know, just your basic exposure, you know, curves, which we went over in the last episode, sharpening, all of this stuff. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to say check none. And when I say check none, I mean, obviously it's not even going to let me, you know, do that because that would be pointless. But what I'm going to do is I'm only going to select certain parts of the sync here. And let's see, where is it? So I'm going to do lens profile corrections and also highlights and shadows, because those are the two edits that we made to that main image there. So I think everything looks good, and I'm going to say okay. Now you see right here, now every single image has been corrected, and it corrected the barrel distortion, the vignetting, and also it corrected the exposure a little bit. You know, just did the highlight and shadow changes. So I can click on just any random image here, and you see it has the highlights and the shadows corrected, and then also it's got the lens profile corrected as well. So like I said, every single photo has that edit done, and you know, if I want to go and, you know, check all these, they're all good. Now another thing you can do is you can add synced settings on top of each other. So let's go to an outdoor one here. Let's see, what's a good one? Here we go. Here's a good one. So this is outside, and I know that for all of the outside ones, I'm gonna wanna have a very similar edit. Oh, look, you see there, look, I forgot to click vibrance and saturation. So now the only image that has vibrance and saturation is the first one. None of the other ones will have it because I forgot to click it. So not a big deal. That's something I can change if I need to. But let's just go to an outdoors photo. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna bump up the vibrance, bump up the saturation, and then I'm also gonna add a little bit of additional saturation to only the sky. So I'm going to pull the blue up, and you see the blue is getting, you know, a little bit more saturated than the rest of the colors. Now what I can do is I'm gonna select all of the outdoor photos that would benefit from this change. So I'm gonna scroll down and see where the blue sky ends. So let's see, those have blue sky. These ones right here have blue sky. And I think those are all the outdoor ones I have. Oh, and then the ones at the very bottom too. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna right click and say sync settings again, and I'm gonna say check none. Now up here, if you click on this one that says custom subset, you can actually see that there are kind of like different pre-made presets for all these. So let's say that I just want to apply basic. And so look, it'll select all of these from the subset that it has defined as, the basic ones, which would be vibrance, saturation. So that's something I do want. So I want basic, and then you can also just check out some of these that might apply to your images. Dehaze, HSL adjustments. So the edits we did were inside the basic parameters, and then we also did one to the HSL, which is the hue, saturation, and luminance adjustments, and I made a saturation adjustment to the blue, so I'm also going to click on this. So when I click OK, it's going to keep all of the lens adjustments that I made, and it's also going to change the vibrance and saturation of all of the outdoor images that I selected, and it's also going to change the saturation adjustment that I did. So I'm going to press OK, and then let's go see an image that might have benefited more from this. So let's go to this one, And look at that. So it's got the blue saturated, and then it's also got the vibrance and saturation popped up a little bit too. And that applies to every single outdoor image that I did. So you can see how this would be a very beneficial tool for you to use. You know, it's gonna save you a huge amount of time, because rather than going through like bit by bit through every single image, you can kind of think ahead of time about which edits you need to make to each photo, and then kind of apply a bulk to the photos that would be similar to it. You know, like the outdoor ones are, you know, separate from the indoor ones, and you know, even if you need to make an adjustment to every single image, like I showed you with the barrel distortion, this is hugely beneficial. Now, I want to show you one other example that this is beneficial for, especially with landscape photos, and it is dealing with editing panoramas. Okay, so here we have a panorama that I took out in Yosemite National Park. Now, you can see I already made one edit to just a single photo here, but no edits to the rest of the images. Now, the thing with panoramas is when you take a photo, every single photo in that panorama has to look exactly the same, or else you'll be seeing kind of like the stitch lines where everything's different. So this is a key part of editing a panorama, is making sure every single image is exactly the same. So this is, you know, very simple to do. I already have the very first image selected with the all the edits done, and I'm just gonna select all the images, press sync, and I'm going to say check all, because I want all of the white balances to be the same. I want all the exposures, saturation, everything needs to be exactly the same. These might not be relevant, but it's still going to be fine if I click it, so I'm going to say OK. And then you see every single image is perfect, and it's all the same. And when I edited this image, it came out, in my opinion, it came out pretty good. Look at that, no stitch marks, and that's all because every single image was done exactly the same. So you can see how this is going to benefit you with every type of photography. I mean, everything from landscape photography, portraits, real estate photography. It's all going to really cut down your time for kind of the basic edits along every single image, and help you get better images, because now you can focus more of your time onto getting better quality edits. So this is something I use every single time I edit photos. I use it obviously with the panoramas, or even just testing out different edits on my landscape photos. So I think this is something that will benefit you depending on, you know, it doesn't even matter what type of photos you're doing, it's gonna help you save time. So hopefully this was helpful for you guys, and hopefully you'll be able to implement it in your workflow. And if you can, leave me a comment down below. Let me know how you liked it. Do you have any questions about it? Or even if you have questions for a future video. I'll always take your comments into account when making new content. So I want to thank you guys for watching the entire video. If you liked it, subscribe, because I come out with new content every week. Like the video, and I will see you on the next one.